Hi, this is Kendra from Pencil and Pigment, and welcome to Vlogoween Day 29. And today we're going to talk about how to draw iridescent, like birds and iridescence in general, when you don't have iridescent supplies. So, for example, I'm going to be doing this in colored pencil, but you can do this in other supplies with some of the tips and tricks I'm going to be explaining to you. Now, the colors I have gathered are greens and a teal. I can read the names off if you like. Let's see. Emerald green, leaf green. This is earth green yellowish, dark phthalo green, and cobalt green. So we have a lot of greens here. And the tricks to doing iridescence. Okay, so the trick to doing iridescence, sorry my cat wanted out, is to make sure that you have complete opacity with the colors you're laying down. You don't want the white page to show up. Here's how I'll explain it. Okay, so if I'm working on a bird and I'm drawing a bird and this is my green. This can't be your green. There's too much white page showing through. There's too much white page. While you're going to need your white page to show through for the full highlight of the iridescent, this is not how you do it. You're going to want to have a solid opaque color. You're going to want a high contrast, and then when you do let the page show through, it is completely intentional. It doesn't look like this, it looks like this. So if you need a really pale color, you're going to have a paler green to make up for it. Okay? And then when you have the highlight of the white shining through, it's very intentional. Now you can completely do this on a colored substrate. You can do Strathmore's Tone Tan or Tone Gray or Tone Blue, and then the white you have would be a white colored pencil. Okay, and then the white would be the full highlight. That is a much easier way to do this in the beginning, to make your highlights white with a white pencil on a colored piece of paper, but I'm doing it on white paper because that's what I typically use, and most people just have white paper. So I kind of want to do this tutorial for folks that have the basics like I have the basics. Not everybody has colored paper that they can turn to kind of strategically put down white pigment on their page. So in drawing a bird, and I've pulled a hummingbird image. This is from Pixabay. This is by Barbie Ann. So Barbie Ann, thank you for this hummingbird photo. Okay. She says Saturino took almost all the photos posted here. Okay, thank you, Saturino. I have a sketchbook where I did insects. And I did insects with iridescence, and I want to show you a couple. I don't have iridescent colored pencils, but what you can see what I've done is there's a full contrast and a full range of greens. Here I have a very, very dark pine green that really, really helps. I would recommend you get a really dark green if you are doing iridescents that have green in them. Again, if you're doing like iridescence that's blue or iridescence that's purple, you're kind of going to need 3 or 4 purples, and then make sure the white page shines through. Here's another one I did. An easiest way to start to learn to figure out how to do iridescence is to do bigger pieces. So when you look at birds with iridescence, it can be really hard because mixed in the feathers are the drop shadows from the feather laying over it. Case in part, when we're looking at this hummingbird, there's a lot of really, really dark green It's almost black. It's so dark green that each little feather is going to have to be isolated and pulled out and given attention, which is going to take a ton of time. Now that's absolutely fine. You can take as much time as you want to on your illustrations. Just know that I would consider drawing this hummingbird to be intermediate to advanced, just because of each individual feather that needs its own pigment range. Some of these are more green, some of these are more olive, some of these are more teal, and then there's a lot of white highlight on some of these where you don't put down any pigment and let the page show through. When you're drawing an insect, and this is a frog beetle, it is one huge chunk, it is one huge piece. There are no individual feathers. So for practice, you could either do ovals or spheres and practice laying down greens to blues to really bright yellow, or have the page shine through so there is just a white piece. Like, you don't have to have solid pigment. You can have the white page shine through and it adds a completely different effect. Okay? I didn't add any ink or anything. I just didn't put down any color right there. So in the beginning, when you're first starting out with iridescence, I would recommend starting with a shape like a circle. And from a circle, you can move on to, say, an oval, the body of an insect. And then from there, birds would come last because of the feathers. It is very, very time consuming. So if we go to make this bird as big as possible, you're going to be drawing individual feathers. You're like, which feather did you start on? I started on one that has a huge white highlight, and I'm isolating the white highlight. Okay, this is one feather. And it doesn't look like I've done anything iridescent. It doesn't. It's the pieces that make the whole, and you have to get there and you have to be patient. So you're going to be building up the feathers and isolating the color within each area, and understanding that some of this, I'm going to need to add a little bit of green here, looks a little wonky because you're looking at each individual one. But once you put it all together, once you put all the feathers together, it's going to look iridescent, just like it does in your reference photo. But you're going to have to draw each individual feather. Does that make sense? And you can't do it like this. You need to commit to color. You need to have a high contrast where they're colored in so you can see. The white has to be stark white. And then as we go into other greens, I didn't really plan on drawing a whole hummingbird today, but when you go into other greens and darker greens and other colors, you're going to need to blend some of these in together, make some of these go together a little bit better. As you do this, this is why iridescence is so difficult. This is why it's so hard. So start with your darkest color. And greens are easy because everybody has like 3 or 4 greens. Y'all have 3 or 4 greens in your set. Figure out where you want the shadow. I'm just going to shade both sides of the circle here. Again, starting with birds is not the easiest subject matter because of each feather has to be strategic. Now, if you're doing a different medium like pastel, it's a lot quicker laying down the color than it is, say, with colored pencil. The same with doing like watercolor. When doing watercolor, you want to lay down, you want it to be pretty opaque until you start getting to the highlight, and then you want it really thinned out with water. All this can be done with every medium, creating faux iridescence. It has to do with the shadow, the highlight, the opacity. I'm just blending these greens into each other. That's all I'm doing. I'm trying to make it look as natural as possible with overlap to make it look good. It may not always look good in your blends, but this is a great practice for working on blending. For making sure you're getting all the colors you need to get. And then I'm just going to throw in a yellow. Okay, working on iridescent. It doesn't look, oh, I need a dark green, don't I? Well, we'll go as dark as we can with this guy. Full pressure. It doesn't look like it's iridescent until you start to sort of back out, step away, look around. When you pull up a picture of, say, a beetle, let me find a beetle here. Having a reference to help you sort of figure out which part needs to be shiny, which part needs to be which color. This is a really beautiful one, isn't it? That one is blue. Who is this from? This is from Iridescence. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. I'm going to do this color and this color. Can we add a green? Let's add a green. All right, let's do a quick beetle. And we may need a little bit, we're going to need a little bit of black. So I'm going to do this as quick as possible. This isn't going to be the pinnacle of perfection here, so just go with me on this tutorial as I explain this through an example. Here's an antenna, and here's an antenna. I'm just doing a couple legs so you see what I'm working on here. Here's a leg. Okay, just real quick, a beetle. And insects have 6 legs, arachnids have 8. So all these should have 6 legs unless there's something going on with, oh, he's got a bent leg. All right. All right, so let's say his leg looks kind of like this. Okay, we're just going to go with the 3 that you see. Okay, the 3 legs you see. So I'm going to color block this beetle. I'm going to say that I'm going to go like this, and this shape is going to be solid black as hard as I can. We want opaque colors. You don't want colors that you can see the white page through. This is what adds the realism to your illustrations, is not seeing the white page through unless that is what the bug looks like, in which case it'll make it look a little soft and fuzzy. Again, we're going to start with something easy. We're just color blocking a shape. It's essentially all we're doing. And I want a little bit of black right around here. And I'm probably going to blend that in. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to be using 4 colors. I'm going to be using my black. I'm going to be using my helio reddish, my cobalt green, and a leaf green. These are the 4 colors I'm going to use for this beetle. And I've kind of color blocked, and I can't really tell how much this fades into, so I just have it solid right here, okay? This is my shape. I want a little bit of black around here. I'm going to color block this. Feel free to do this with me. It is a trick of the eye. That is what iridescence is. You're tricking your eye without using iridescent supplies. And then obviously this guy, like, without getting too much into it, some of this is black, some of this has the iridescence. So we'll just do a portion. And the same goes with a portion of the leg. Okay. Portion of the leg. All right. Now, We're going to go into this blue, and we want to do color blocking with this blue as dark as possible. And then it's going to go a little bit lighter. So we're going to get a value of this dark blue. In this bug, we want a couple blues out of this one blue. So we're going to press as hard as we can. You know, overlap that with the black. You might have to blend a little bit of the black into the blue. I know you're here for a bird tutorial, but just bear with me, okay? More blue. More blue as we come around the beetle. Okay. It just looks weird. We're just color blocking sections. This needs a little bit of black here. And then we're going to get into the green that comes up through the center. And it's going to start to blend into this cobalt green, this really great turquoise. And again, this is really slapdash. This is as fast as I can work and explain this to you without doing, I meant that to be blue, without doing an illustration that takes, you know, hours, because bird feathers are time consuming. They just are. We're going to want to blend these blues in together a little bit. Okay. It's not the bird's fault. It's just allocating the proper amount of time. Again, we want to leave white. We want to leave some white in this area. And blues, sometimes they lift. This one's okay. Sometimes they don't lift very well, but you want to leave a little bit of white area. And then this is going to be blue, real dark. And then this is going to be light over here, okay? Less pressure, lighter blue. We've got the black line that goes all the way through. There are sections, 2 bugs. They are pieces, parts. That's just how they are. They're segmented. Our dog says hi. Okay, and we're going to add more blue here. And there is lots of little tiny white dots in amongst. This is where you want to let the page show through. There's little tiny dots here. We're going to have this guy blend into this guy. And then we're going to need white. We need white shining through. And I am stippling, I am doing dots. Making sure the blend looks a little more seamless. There's polka dots on the green, there's polka dots on the cobalt green, the leaf green. I mean, there's like dots and stipples everywhere. Do you see this as it comes together? As it comes together, it looks like iridescence. It is not iridescence. It is 4 colors that you own. I'm going to leave a little white there, just for some more shine. That basically all black. Go gadget eyeballs. Sometimes it's hard to tell, so I'm going to overlay a little bit. And we're going to come around here. And say this guy's also polka dotted. But you're going to press down hard. You want it opaque. You want an opaque black. And then from here, it looks like there are bits that don't shine through and light. So this is how you do faux iridescence. You want opacity, you want shadow, you want highlight. The highlight has to be the brightest thing. Your page has to shine through for iridescence. It just has to, like, you don't have a choice. Trying to block off the areas here. Let's fix some leg business here. And he'll have some here. He'll have a little bit shine through here. Like, understanding some of these things really help build the parts of the insect. When you look at different segmentations of insects, he has some white coming through, and we'll say there's a thing here, okay? This would be my version of iridescence. Now, if it's not looking as seamless as you want it to look, you can keep adding little bits of layers till it looks a little bit more realistic. Again, this is as fast as I can create it. Ooh, I apologize. I have timers for things. So I apologize for that. But if you want your black to blend in, your blues to be a little bit more seamless, you can go back through and add another little blending layers. So it's not quite so harsh. Doesn't quite look so paint by number. But this is faux iridescence. Does this make sense? It was 4 colors. You have to have a dark, you have to have a light, and then you need a white. Whether you're letting the white of the page shine through, or whether you're adding a white because you're using a colored piece of paper. But if you're using a colored piece of paper, the white has to be opaque. You cannot let the tan of a tone tan paper shine through. You have to press as hard as you can to get a solid white. Your brights have to be bright, your darks have to be dark. I don't know if this helps you. I don't know if it does. I really hope it does. There are colors that are harder to do just because of what sets you have. So if you're looking to do something that has tons of iridescent purples and you only own one purple, you can add a magenta and maybe a pink and maybe some greens to it, but you're gonna need at least 2 purples. You're gonna need more purple than 1. So without buying iridescence, you have to realistically look at the colors you do have and pick a reference photo accordingly. You can't make more colors in your set if you don't have them. Now, doing this, creating faux iridescence, is a great way to create print reproduction products without having to add spot foil, without having to add spot metallic color like gold and silver and shine. And so this, in the end, this will cost you less money because you've created something that looks iridescent without having to purchase iridescent inks specifically designed for print reproduction. So the same works. Let me find a good reference photo here. And I bookmarked some, but that doesn't mean I'm organized. For faux metallics. This is not gold. I do not own a gold colored pencil. What this is a ton of yellow. This is yellow. And then I used, for the shadow, raw umber. This is raw umber. These are just yellows, and then we have the white of the page shining through like a highlight. Now this is a tortoise beetle. It really does look like this. It's really strange, but this is not gold. It's just not. It's just a bunch of yellows. So you can create not just like faux iridescence, you can create faux gold. You can create faux colors within what you're working on with the colors you already own. showing through the white of the page, showing through the highlight. It takes practice. You have to know where to lay down your color. You have to know where to lay it down, where to smooth it out, where to do the blending, and where to have the highlight. Having really good reference photos helps with this. Your eye doesn't do this on its own. You have to sort of piece out and pull out the individual colors. This is raw umber, this is bright yellow, this is a white. And it doesn't look gold like this. It doesn't look gold. Altogether, in its entirety, it looks gold. So if you're just trying to figure out one little piece, you're not going to get the full effect unless you draw the whole item in its entirety, the whole subject matter. And that is the illusion that gives you the gold. It's not one part. It's not going to look good in swatch examples if you just drew this one little chunk right here and said this is faux gold, because there's no context to make that look gold. You have to have all the other bits. So this is why this is my reference, because I have to explain it, that your eye doesn't understand this portion being gold unless it has the rest of it. And that's what iridescence does. It's your mind piecing apart each individual shape, and then once it's all done and all the shapes have to be together, you have what you set out to draw with the faux iridescence, the faux metallic. It's the same with birds. It's why birds are so difficult to do iridescence, because you have to piece out each individual feather, each individual part. So wings and feathers and pieces like this can be really, really difficult to put together just because there's so much work to be done. And it can become really, really difficult and sort of discouraging, because you really want to nail this, and it doesn't seem like it's coming together. It doesn't seem like it's looking correct. But it's because you're still hyper focused on the one piece, and you have to be done with the whole subject matter. And then once you're done with the whole subject matter, you get the look you were going for. You get that look. So it takes a little getting used to. It takes a whole lot of patience. It takes screwing up. It takes learning. It takes practice. It takes figuring out what looks right, what doesn't look right, blending it all together, and then getting the desired effect in the end. Like, it's a lot. And it's a lot with feathers, and especially if you're working small. So if you're working small with, say, a hummingbird, you're gonna have to do the individual feathers, and you're gonna have to figure out each individual one, and that is time. That is time, that is patience, and again, it's not gonna look right. None of it's gonna look correct. And depending on how big you're going, it's not gonna look correct for quite a while, for hours. So once you're done with that, and you're all finished, that's where it comes together, and it looks iridescent. Boy, this guy needs to be blended in, doesn't he? You look a little harsh. So, you're gonna have to figure out how to do that. How to piece that together and create a faux iridescence. If you can. With the time you have. Just allocate proper time. Have practice pieces. I will link the beetle I will link the hummingbird. I will link a couple other things where people have done specific bits of fabric and creating like metallics with bits of fabric. Have to do with lines. So if you're creating fabric lines, you want the folds in the fabric. And again, we're doing birds, but like, it's really hard to explain some of these things without other examples that sort of highlight and bring these things to the forefront. Let's do all this like this. Here, we'll go down. And then we'll add, on top we'll add some black. Then we're going to need to blend in, if we have a solid cobalt green, like I remember the names now, but the next time I go to do a video, I won't remember any of these color pencil names. It just doesn't look metallic till you start adding other bits that get lighter. And show off the white. So again, I am working on creating a faux fabric here. You want the white, you want the lines. Like I can keep going with purples and pinks. It doesn't look like anything until you have it all the way done. And I will pull up this reference photo. This is from Drawing Den. This is from a Drawing Den Tumblr. This is from Nadiad Baj. And you can see the individual color blocks and then the colors blending in, the purples blending into pinks, the sort of turquoise blending into a very bluish purple, like an ultramarine. You can see these colors. It is a trick of the eye with light, with shadow, and with opacity. That is what iridescence is. So if you're doing feathers, one, maybe not start out with a hummingbird. It is minuscule, and the chances of muddying get really difficult when you start adding like the drop shadow of the feather over the next feather below it. So if I'm adding drop shadows, okay, to my individual feathers, and I'm just using black as a drop shadow, some of these would look better with pine green drop shadows, and some of these would look better with indigo drop shadows. So they wouldn't all have the same color drop shadow. Because work. Because work. So I'm still adding color, but you have to be careful kind of not to muddy these. They're going to be small. They're going to be tiny. There are birds where it's bigger. Gosh, I was almost off the page. I apologize. It starts to get muddied with the black. You have to be very, very careful when you lay black down. You want to do all the color first and do the shadow over it. If you start with the shadow and do the color over it, it's going to smear the black and it's going to muddy your green. You have to have clear, crisp, clean greens. Here, again, I'm almost off the page. I apologize. And then you add the black on top. Okay? Whereas if you have the black and you add the green, it starts to smear. You'll have to figure out the best way to do this for your art. You want really crisp, sharpened pencils, If they're super dull, you won't get the crisp lines. If you don't have crisp lines, that also looks like it's bleeding into your color. These are all factors to consider. All right, we're gonna do a teeny tiny bird. So this is a grackle. It has a larger chunk that is iridescent. I apologize for the noise outside. This photograph is courtesy of the Bee Best Knees. So this is a great photograph. Now I'm gonna be using 4 colors. I'm gonna be using black. I'm gonna be using a Van Dyke brown, but a walnut brown would look good too. This is the emerald green, and then here is the helio blue reddish. Again, everything except for the brown is part of the 36 set of Faber-Castell Polychromos, but any brown would work. It's just a mid-range brown that I grabbed. So when we're looking at this picture of the grackle and we're looking at the head to the neck to the body, this is where it's a faux iridescence. So we're looking at the beak. Again, I'm going to be really quick with this, otherwise we are going to be here for 1.5 years, and maybe you want to spend 1.5 years with me, in which case I am super flattered. But we got stuff to do today. So I'm working on the head. I'm coming down. I need black. That is what the body is doing. It's looking very dark in color. And then there's some sort of tail situation. Again, I am making this as quick as possible. Otherwise, this is going to take forever. We have a leg. And we start coming up. Now it looks like there's something in the bird's mouth. I am doing the beak. Okay. We are working on some sort of something in the bird's mouth. I'm not going to get into it in this illustration. Like, that's totally fun. That's totally fine. Boy, I really went heavy-handed with that, didn't I? I'm making my black gray by not doing full pressure. Okay. And then I'm going to come down and we are going to figure out how to connect this guy. So we're going to connect him. Just ignore my slapdash. We need an eye. It looks like his eyes are white. There's a black pupil. Here's the white of his eye. We're calling that good enough. Now, what I see are multiple colors. So I'm gonna do a layer of this helio blue reddish, whatever it is. And I'm going as hard as I can. I don't want any of this page to show through. I want the opacity. We are going to layer black on top of this to get it to look good. There's a little bit of black here with the beak on the top one too. Anyway, sorry, the perfectionist in me is gonna like start to come out, and I'm just trying to do a demo with you. So we need some of this blue. We absolutely have to have the blue. We know there's blue on top. We know it kind of comes down. We know there's greenish bits in here, and we know it gets super dark. Okay. I'm going to do black. Okay, I'm going to do black as hard as I can. Overlapping strokes give you opacity. And this bird is a fun bird already. Okay. Again, I'm trying to go quick here. Do this in real time so you can realistically see what it takes to do this, okay? That is the benefit of real time. Unfortunately, you have to spend the real time all with me. So I am going to slowly overlap some of this black onto the blue for blending purposes. Some of this blue is very, very dark. In and around the eyes, it is still blue, but there's definitely, it's a dark blue. So I'm layering the black over it. Is that starting to look like a bird? Okay. We have a bird situation going on. Now it looks like there's a little bit of black from this angle as well. Kind of coming in, blending in a little bit. We still want some of that pure blue to shine through. We need to have that. We absolutely have to have that going on. Now, here is where we're going to get to some of the more unusual blending. We're going to add this emerald. Do I want emerald green? Shoot, I think I want this one instead. I apologize. Which one is this one? This is, as if I could see. That's hilarious. I tried to read it with my eyes. Dark phthalo green. Dark phthalo green is a little bit more teal. And again, as hard as I can. All the pressure. All the pressure. Doesn't quite look like it yet. It doesn't. We need to add more color, because it will. It will start to look that way. We need to add overlapping bits of blue that come through, of blue that layer and blend into this green. Okay? You still want some of this green to shine through. You still want some of the black to overlay over this blue a little bit. You want it all to look purposeful. Now there may be lines, bits of wing portions. Okay, and then you're going to go into what looks to me like a brown that has a black layer over it. Okay, this is how I define it. It's a brown with black and a little bit of blue. Okay, well, I'm just gonna do a portion of this again, otherwise you're gonna be moving into my office here with me. We're gonna be birding all the time together. So, doesn't look very seamless to me, because it's not. We have to work on that, okay? We have to work on our blending the black into this brown. And this is a very dark brown, but I'm going to do a little bit of blue over it. I'm going to do a little bit of black over it. It's going to have a lot of pieces, parts. Come together, but it's not a pure color here. Make sure I'm not out of time. I'm not out of time. And this has a very definitive blue border here. This is how I faux grackle with iridescence. It's not an iridescent, like, I didn't buy anything iridescent. And again, I'm going to kind of close the beak a little bit. It looks like it might be iridescent. It's not. It's the opacity, and it's the overlay. It's the original color. It's the little bits. Again, this is really, really slapdash. I would have spent way more time doing the individual little feather lines. But again, as quick as I can, this is how I would create this bird. And these are the colors I would use. And this is how I would create that faux iridescent. If it looks too bright, you can add a little layer of black. You can also smear colored pencil with your finger. It takes away some of that shine if you want it to blend in a little bit more. If you think it shines too much, you want it to look a little bit more realistic than you think it does, like faux iridescence. These are my tips and tricks. Shadow, highlight, opacity, a really good reference photo. Allow for the allotted time that you actually have. Figure out how to do that and understand that the individual shapes is what's going to make up the whole. It doesn't look iridescent until it's complete. It just doesn't. It doesn't look right. It doesn't look like a bird till you're done with it. You can't draw a feather and be like, yeah, do you see my bird? It looks fantastic. It's not how this works. That's why they call it the ugly stage, is when you're midway through drawing something and it doesn't look right. It doesn't look like what you're trying to draw. It doesn't look good. The colors are off. Everything's off about it. It's because you're only halfway done. When you're finished, it will look complete and it will look like what you set out for it to look like. So understand whatever you have the most of. If you have a lot of greens and blues, yellows, a lot of sets come with quite a few mid-range greens and blues. Pick a reference photo to that then. Because if you're picking one that's a lot of purples, again, most sets don't come with a ton of purple. And then you're trying to add in pink and you're trying to add in blue and you're trying to make that up. That can create more time if you're trying to overlay and create brand new colors you don't have. I hope this video helps. I hope this gave you a starting point to understanding the illusion of iridescence, like the illusion of creating gold, the illusion of pieces making a whole, of what that actually looks like. I just hope this helps. That's all I hope for you, is that my tips and tricks help. I will link a couple other artists that are doing iridescent with different supplies. I will link their videos in my description box. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye.